Hey drummers, hope you're well. Just a quick one. Shout out to everybody who's asked about this. In fact, I've been asked about this specific exercise I'm going to deal with today 3 times in the last 24 hours by channel members. So it seemed like a good time to throw this up. This is about learning coordinated things. Now, the thing I'm going to talk about today is actually something that appears on page 1 of grade 1 from the Trinity Drum Kit syllabus anyway. And it's paradiddles. Paradiddle, played at 8th notes with a boom, chick, like bass drum, hi-hat, foot pattern where the bass drum and hi-hat are played on quarter notes. So basically this, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll play on 2 different drums just so you can hear the sticks. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right. So basically this, right? So in the grand pantheon of coordinated things on the drums, like I say, this is grade 1, page 1, but people ask about this a lot, and I think this is a really good way to illustrate some really important principles about learning things that involve coordination. On the drums, lots of things, of course, involve coordination, using your right and your left hand and your right foot and your left foot. And just wanted to talk a few, it'll be all things that I've said already on this channel probably, but I want to just go through this because I think this is such an important thing. Now, often when people ask about this, they say stuff like, I'm trying to learn this. Again, this I can't repeat enough. This is only an example, this paradiddle with this foot pattern. It's only an example. But often, say people were looking at this, they'll message me and they'll say, I'm really struggling to play this. I just find that when I play the paradiddle with my hands, my feet just don't lock in, or I'll do it for a couple of bars and it goes out. People say things like, I can play the paradiddle okay without the feet, but then when I drop it in, when I put the feet in, it all falls apart. And then I think people say, is there something wrong with me? Like, why am I not getting it? And this is where I think, and I've said this a lot on this channel, I think this sort of dangerous idea of talent comes in. People say, I must not. People kind of reason that they must not be talented because they just sort of try to do this thing and it doesn't fit. And often people answer their own question. It's quite interesting because they say things like, I'll try to do it. And then they do say, typically at some point during the message, they'll say, well, to be fair, I know I haven't actually done a lot of practice at grade 1. So that might be the reason. And that's always the little moment. That's always the tell. Like, that's it. That's what it is, right? And this is all about going back to basics. Now, the main point I want to make here, I guess, is there's 2 sides to this. I'd say it takes these things typically take longer than you might first think, but they also don't take as long as you think. Now, here's why I'm saying that. They take longer than you think, because for most people, for me anyway, when I first played this, when I was 13 years old, I couldn't just play that straight away. Like, my feet and hands wouldn't cooperate straight away. That wasn't possible. So it takes longer than you think because you can't. Well, I can't. Some people maybe can, but I can't. And in my experience, the majority of people starting off on the drums can't just sit down and do that. So it takes longer than you think because you have to break it down. You have to break it right down, and I mean right down. But the other really important point is it doesn't take as long as you think, because if you do genuinely do the process of breaking it down, which in my experience and in my opinion, mostly my experience, the vast majority of drumming students simply don't do. They think they do. This is the thing. Watch out, because this is where it gets you. They think they're doing it, but they're not. So the reason it takes less time than you think, my second point, is because if you genuinely do it within a few repeats, you'll be up and running, and that habit will start to form. This process is only at the beginning. It's only when you're showing your brain, your hands and your feet, something new, and then you're up and running, and it'll flow, man. A handful of repeats as you go, it'll start to fall into place. All our brains are pretty much wired up the same. Like, if you show it the right information correctly a few times, it will start to fall into place. It will start to become your second nature. Here it comes. Now, the number one thing I'd recommend doing, and this is the thing that 90+% of drumming students just simply don't do, is in the first case, show your brain and your hands and your feet working together, your nervous system, the events. This is the bit people miss out. So you literally say it, right? So it's on screen now. You go right stick and bass drum. This assumes you're right-handed. Right stick and bass drum. Left stick on its own. Right stick and left foot. Right stick on its own. Right, we've covered the first half right now, the first 4 notes. Like, which bit of that is confusing? If you go that slow, it isn't confusing, right? Because you're literally saying it out loud and then playing it, right? So and what people just don't do this. This is mind-blowing to me, really fascinating to me as I do this job over the years, because people just simply don't do this. They go, oh yeah, I get it, go slow, yeah. See, I'm just not getting it. I'm just not getting it. But you're not actually showing your brain. You're trying still, even though you think you're going slow and breaking it down, you're still trying to miss out the bit where you actually learn it, right? You've got to actually learn it in the first place. So we did the first half. I'll do it again. Right stick and bass drum. Literally complete saying it out loud before you play it. Left stick on its own. Right stick and left foot. Right stick on its own. Now the second half. Left stick and bass drum. Right stick on its own. Left stick and hi-hat. Left stick on its own. So that's it. We've gone through it now. So what's happened there is you have shown your brain and your hands and your feet the events in order. So at the minute it's completely out of tempo, and that's fine. And remember, please remember, you only have to do this at the start. Once you've established it, you get that flow going, man, you'll be up and running in no time. But that first step, your only aim the first time is to simply present your brain with the information, one after the other, one event at a time. It's complete saying it out loud before you play it. And you can do this away from the kit, remember? Right stick and bass drum, left stick on its own, right stick and hi-hat, right stick on its own, left stick and bass drum, right stick on its own, left stick and hi-hat, left stick on its own. You can do that away from the kit, right? You can build this just like that. So that's absolutely the most important bit. Now, again, something I've waffled on a lot about this channel is the lovely process of myelination that science has showed us, the beautiful process of how building up physical coordination like this can work. The basic, or my little model of it anyway, is when we do that the very first time, when we show our hands and our feet the right events in the right order, what we're doing is we're laying that pathway down. We're establishing that little neural pathway in our brain, in our nervous system. That's all it is in the first case. That now exists. That's all you're looking to do in the first case. Then every time you repeat, well, the image I really like is when you establish that pathway, it's like a pipe or a tube that the information can subsequently flow down. But in the first case, the pipe or tube is very, very leaky. The information can just about get down, but it's flying out all over the place. It's very inefficient and it's very leaky. Every time you then repeat after that process, it's like putting a layer of insulation. And this is that beautiful chemical, that sort of fatty substance, I should say, myelin, that our brain lays down around our neural connections. And every time you repeat that process, you put down another layer, and it starts to insulate it. To use a musician's analogy, I haven't got my gaffer tape here. It's like a roll of gaffer tape. So you put another roll of gaffer tape or duct tape around that pipe every time you go slow like that, and show your hands and your feet and your brain the right events in the right order. So again, here we go. Right stick and right foot. Left stick on its own. Right stick and left foot. Right stick on its own. Left stick and right foot. Right stick on its own. Left stick and left foot. Left stick on its own. So again, you're showing your brain that pathway. You're establishing it first, and now as we repeat, we're starting to lay down that myelin. This is the bit people miss out, and this is again, I think I totally get why people talk about musicians being talented and the natural ability and all that stuff. It's all great, and this, of course, I'm not denying those things exist. Of course, there's such a thing as aptitude and a great musical ear, and of course, I've seen students come in for a session who've never played drums before and perform musical things on the kit and get things in a way that other students don't. Of course I get that, but what I'm saying here is no one gets out of actually doing this process one note at a time, complete saying it out loud. It's only at the beginning, but actually it comes down to some really basic human things, doesn't it? Like, it's humility, and it's like respecting this thing that we're doing, and it's not bringing a sense of entitlement that in some way you should be able to just do it. And actually it's really being honest. What's quite healthy about this is it really encourages you and coaches you to be honest with yourself. Because I think a lot of people, and I've definitely been guilty of this in the past, like I said earlier, they think they're doing this, but they're not quite. They're not. So say it out loud, play the moment. And man, like I said, I can't repeat this enough times. Two things about this. One is it takes longer than you think. It takes longer than you first think, because certainly in my case, I couldn't sit down and just play paradiddles along with a boom chick foot pattern in the first place at grade 1. But it also takes less time than you think, because if you actually do it, and here's the great truth about it, like a lot of things I've realized in life as I've gone on and got older, I was 43 last week, most people just aren't really doing it properly. So it turns out. So, and that includes me a lot of the time, but most people just basically aren't really, really doing it. So if you're actually the person who engages, it's magic. What you can achieve is unimaginably magic and brilliant and beautiful if you actually do it. And it's been a revelation to me over the last few years doing this job. More and more you see this, and occasionally you see someone who actually does this. It's kind of cool as a teacher. You see someone who actually follows your advice, and they turn up the next week with the thing like firing. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, you're actually doing it. Or even not necessarily the next week. Maybe it takes them a month or 6 months, but they do the process. They stay on their purpose, as they say. They trust the process, whatever cliche you want to use, and it actually works because they stick with it. They don't use talent or natural ability as a get out. That's what it is at its worst. It's a get out. It's a shrug of the shoulders. It's saying, oh, I don't have the natural ability to do this. It's all right for other people who have natural ability. Don't be that person. Don't use that word talent as an out. Not having that. Not on this channel. You've got to build the thing from the ground up. Give it respect. Pay your dues. Have the humility to admit when you start something new. And make no mistake, I do this all the flipping time. Like every day, if I've got to learn something new, somebody requested something, I've got to demo something, I've got to teach something that I haven't done before. Make no mistake, I do this process like on a daily basis. Like I sit down and talk myself through this stuff. I've been playing the drums for a relatively long time, 30 odd years, but I don't get out of this with new stuff. Like, of course, as you go along, there are certain skills that sort of build up and you've got a certain level with things, I guess, but certain things are just new and different and you have to do this. So I can't repeat it enough times. This is it. If you're going to learn coordinated stuff and it doesn't flow at the beginning, that's completely fine. One thing at a time, one event at a time. Show your hands and your feet and your brain what's happening. Say it out loud, then play it. Do not go faster than you can say it. I cannot repeat that enough times. You're still going to do it. I guarantee you. Most people are still going to do it. They're still going to go faster than they can say it. Have that patience. Patience is a deadly weapon. Haste is your enemy. And you're going to say the event, play it, say it by the 5th, 10th time you do it. You're going to sit down and you're going to go, oh, hang on. So in my experience, so many people sit talking about drums, coordination, describing how things are hard. There's very few people actually just spit on their hands and get on with it. Start at the beginning. That's the biggest thing. It's that willingness to go back a few more steps than most people think in the first case, but only in the first case, because then you're in. Then your foot's in the door. You can build that pipe will start to get insulated, that myelin will start to get laid down, and then you're in business. So shout out to all the channel members who asked about that. That's my 2 penneth on that. Yeah, I really hope that's useful. Let me know if so.